Chopin's Fantaisie-Impromptu is possibly the most known of all his works. And it's ironic that it wasn't even published during his lifetime. I mean, it's such a good piece, it fits so well under the fingers. It's like the perfect marriage of virtuosity and elegance. And it has a beautiful lyrical Cantabile middle section with all the sweetness but none of the melancholy of a Nocturne. It eventually got published in 1855, 6 years after Chopin's death, by his friend Julian Fontana, despite Chopin wishing on his deathbed that all the unpublished manuscripts lying around should be burnt. It has some interesting similarities with Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. They're both in C-sharp minor, with fast 16th notes and agitato markings, and Chopin basically stole a note pattern from the cadenza in the Moonlight movement to use in the Fantaisie-Impromptu. This is how Beethoven uses it in the cadenza. And this is what Chopin does with it in the Fantaisie-Impromptu. The musicologist Ernst Oster writes that Chopin understood Beethoven to a degree that no one else has ever understood him. The Fantaisie-Impromptu is perhaps the only instance where one genius discloses to us, if only by means of a composition of his own, what he actually hears in the work of another genius. In 1960, the pianist Arthur Rubinstein acquired a manuscript to the Fantaisie-Impromptu with the heading "Composed for Madame la Baronne d'Este," and that probably means that Chopin received a commission for writing it specifically to the Madame, and that's why it wasn't published. And the Rubinstein version is actually quite different than the earlier Fontana version, so you get to decide which one to play. And I'm actually sticking with the early version because I like how some of the left-hand movement feels slightly more natural and uncomplicated. But since there are two versions, you can basically choose whichever one you like best. And in a way, it's also just details that differ. The underlying musical material and character is exactly the same. So the Fontana version is based on some early copies or drafts, and Fontana himself did some quite heavy editing, adding dynamic markings and more. And they have found out that in modern times and removed it from recent Urtext editions. And it was actually Julian Fontana who added the fantasy before the impromptu in the title. The two words means basically the same thing, a piece in a freer form and an improvisational character, like it's being created while it's being performed. This octave is just signaling that the piece is starting, and then the left hand starts by itself to set up the expectation of what the right hand is going to play. It's very common to do like a small accelerando, start slightly slower and then speed up, pick up the speed. So the signature feature of this piece is this polyrhythm of 3 against 4. The right hand plays 4 notes and the left hand plays 3 notes in the same time. I was maybe 14 years old when I learned this piece the first time, and I really struggled with these rhythms to separate the hands doing different things at the same time. And after a long time I could do it. I think the trick is to make the hands play the notes independently of the brain. So you just play the notes and then they get together on the beat. So right hand plays 4 notes and left hand plays 3 notes, and then it's much easier said than done, of course, and it takes a lot of practice, but in the end it's possible to do. And when you get it together, it's such a joy to play, because it's actually pretty well written for the hands, because it's in C-sharp minor and it's 4 sharps, so the long fingers can play on the black keys and the thumb can play on the white keys. So I can keep my hand in this position. It's really written for the hand for the piano by Chopin. So now we get these initial runs, and then we take a new turn with this A sharp. And we end up on this episode somewhere between G sharp minor and E major. These lovely kind of romantic gestures. Suspensions, of course. Now, this accent that I play on the top note, they're one of those things that I think Fontana added in his edition in the early time. So they're just a suggestion, it's not Chopin's choice, but I like them, so I play them. I think it's a nice variation because we get the same thing 2 times. So the second time I go down in dynamic and I play the melody on top. Bit mystical here. And then I play the melody on the low note again in the end. And then we get back to the initial runs. And here we go somewhere new again. Now we're getting to the close of the section. It's like a concerto style ending these. Really nice. And here is one of those places where it's different between the versions. First of all, where this tension chord comes. Or. And an extra one down there. It's actually a German 6 chord with an inverted voicing. And also these octaves in the left hand, it's a C sharp minor chord, but which note they start on is different. It's either a different note than the right hand, or it's the same note as the right hand. Anyway, as I said, it doesn't really matter because the character is exactly the same. And here starts now the middle section. We come down and again the left hand plays solo the accompaniment. And now we're in D flat major, which is a switch from C sharp minor to C sharp major. It's just an easier way to spell C sharp major in D flat instead. Now the structure of this is quite repetitive. So we just heard the theme, the lovely theme, and then we get it 2 times, and then we get a small episode, and then the theme again, and the episode again, and the theme again. So we get the theme actually 4 times. So you need to find some way to play it with variation. So I play the first time soft, and then I go forward a bit the second and third time, and then the 4th time I play soft again. So the second time. A bit more assertive. Especially these plays. So the first time I play. So really exciting chord, but in a lower dynamic level. And then the second time. because it's not new the second time we've heard it, so I move forward instead. And now we get a small episode, but it's just 4 bars long, but it's a nice addition here. Here's also big differences between the versions, like how the left hand is and also where this top note comes. And the theme again now. Here is a bit of counterpoint. The left hand bass has a kind of a counter voice here. Now the episode again. I can do some rubato here, you know, stretch time. Long time. And getting back. And now I play it soft the last time. Like an echo. And then we get the first section repeated, and it just grows out of this. The melody is coming to a halt, and then it just starts to stir and we get back to the storminess. We get the coda. So now we're closing the piece with some new material, and it's really fun to play hammering out these chords, because we have a C sharp pedal point, C sharp in the bass all the time, and we're just playing C sharp minor and G sharp major cadencing chords. Looping this over and over. This is yet another difference between the version in the left hand if it's eighth notes or triplets. I kind of like the slight change in texture to play the eighth notes. And then sunrise moment. It turns to major and we get an echo of the middle section in the deep bass, slower, and it's such a nice feeling. Major chord. then we end with calm chords in major. And this turning to major feature is called a Picardy third, when you have a piece in minor that's ending in major. And it happens like all the time in Bach's preludes and fugues. If they're in minor, they usually end in major. And it's the same way here in Chopin, Picardy third. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you're new to the channel, and check out my other videos, and I'll see you in one of them.